Hey everyone, my name is Kelly Caskey, and I am doing the article review for this week on lessons learned from secondary schools using technology for school improvement by Barbara Levin and Lynn Sherm. All right. The reason why this article is so important is because technology is vastly growing every single day with improvements. And the way that technology is working nowadays is we are having information literally at our fingertips. We can find the answers for anything just by looking them up. We can now use technology in classrooms as a learning tool to advance education and prepare students for college and careers. The purpose of this article was to describe lessons learned by studying leadership in 8 award-winning secondary schools and districts that are recognized for successfully leveraging technology for school improvement efforts. The research questions that were answered are: what role or roles does technology play in school improvement in exemplary award-winning secondary schools? And what lessons can be learned about exemplary school and district leaders who have used technology successfully as a lever for school improvement? In the literature review, the purpose was for the need to understand how educational leadership has been defined in recent years. It is leadership is seen as distributed responsibility, and characteristics of some of the exemplary leaders that were found in the past reviews were involved other members of society to improve their schools and districts. They help set the tone and create the vanguard catalyst for making. Distributed leadership needed to be defined, and it is defined as a system of practice comprised of a collection operating in our data, consisting of leaders, followers, and situation. These three components must be understood together because the system is more than the sum of the components or parts or practices. Changing a school's culture requires shared or distributed leadership, which engages many stakeholders in major improvement roles and instructional leadership, in which administrators take responsibility for shaping improvements at the classroom level. This just means that not one person in the school system can make change happen. It all has to happen together as a group effort. The study takes a systems approach because that's what schools are. They are systems of schools and districts embedded in larger systems and interacting and interdependent components. That means if you add one component to the other components, they all change. An example, adding technology to a school system. It is observed how context and the environment is influenced the entire educational system and vice versa. Quoted in the literature review is believed that taking a systems approach helped us better understand the complexity of what exemplary school and district leaders do when they use technology to organize, implement, and promote student engagement and achievement, invigorate teachers, and ultimately improve their schools. Aspects of the educational system that must be taken into consideration are the support from partnerships with institutions, the fact that students are continuing to learn outside of school with the use of technology, and also from the influence of peers, mass media, and their access to information technology and the internet. Successful principals are seen as effective communicators, which means they listen readily and intently, openly share their thoughts and visions. Variables associated with teacher change and technology integration include the knowledge, pedagogical beliefs, and school culture. We need to shift our mindsets away from the notion that technology provides a supplemental teaching tool and assume, as with other professions, that technology is essential to successful performance outcomes. For the method, data collection was through observations and interviews and document intrinsic case studies of leadership. Exemplary schools and districts recognized for effectively using technology for school improvement were selected. The study mainly wanted to focus on secondary schools with ethnically, linguistically, and socioeconomically diverse students living in communities facing challenges many other schools face. These challenges being changing demographics, limited resources, expectations from parents for safe schools, mandates from the government for meeting adequate yearly progress, and pressures from business and industry to prepare workers for the 21st century. The sample was chosen through a purposeful stratified sampling from a pool of 24 schools and districts. The schools that were taken into consideration received state or national awards as exemplary technology using schools or received more than one technology grant. This is a sample, this is an example of stratified sampling because it takes one or more variables related to the outcome and subgroups. Use snowball sampling based on the leader's reputation at a state or national level, which they would take the participants that they already had and then that fit the criteria they needed, and then they would ask if they knew anyone that would be of the same qualities that they could also include in their study sample. Out of this 8 schools, 5 are traditional public schools, 1 was a public charter school, and 2 are magnet schools. The school size ranged from 400 to 1,600 students, and the districts ranged from 1,700 to more than 103,000. The percentages of free and reduced price lunch range from 22 to 86%, and they chose schools from a range of states around the country to give a more accurate representation of the population, including California, Colorado, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, Virginia, and Washington. The method continued. They spent 3 to 5 days studying each school and district with the use of interviews, focus sessions in classrooms, and attending various kinds of meetings. They used research protocols designed for each group of key informants, including administrators at the school and at district levels, the teachers, support staff, and school board members and parents in leadership roles. They also took documentation from each school and district to understand ways which leadership communicated its intentions. This was done from use on information on the websites, school improvement plans, agendas and minutes of meetings, internal and external publicity documents, student achievement data, leader blogs, and so on. In the data collection, they were able to use a team of graduate students to help fine-tune the interview questions and observation protocols. They had a total of 150 interviews, 30 focus groups, and 150 classroom observations, with a total of 80 hours of data collection at each site. The content analysis of information of interview transcriptions, observations to users in schools. This was able to give them an IMIC and EDIC perspective, which is an insider and outsider perspective. They did constant comparative analysis on the interviews, focus groups, and observation data while giving descriptive case studies submitted to the key informants to each site for member checking. This was to verify the analysis and interpretation to make sure they were valid before undertaking a cross-case analysis of lesson learned in all 8 cases. So they sent the information to the schools to make sure that they were correct before comparing the data in between all the schools. A summary from all the data they learned about the leadership of each school and district, technology and support available at each site, how professional development was handled, and kinds of changes that teachers and leaders had seen happen to the curriculum, teaching, and learning for the 8 cases. Cross-case analysis categorized a series of lessons learned statements, which was the purpose of the article, of the study. 218 lessons learned organized into 7 key topics found across all cases, focusing on vision and leadership, technology, planning and support, professional development, curriculum and instructional practices, school culture, funding, and partnerships. The results showed that technology is just one of the many factors needed for school improvement. The 7 factors needed to be addressed for technology to be a present positive lever for successful school improvement include having clear vision or mission and acting on principles of distributed leadership, creating structures and processes for technology infrastructure and support, providing ongoing high quality professional development that is not one size fits all, revising the curriculum to promote 21st century and student centered instructional practices, focusing on and improving school culture, identifying realistic and sustainable sources of funding by thinking outside of the box, and building partnerships with parents, families, and community members, as well as with businesses, industries, and colleges or universities. So out of the 7 factors, they are broken down with more explanation to them. Vision and the distributed leadership focused on the teamwork, which was building broad-based teams, working together as a team, being sure that the entire leadership team was on board with the vision, mission, and goals. This is used for support use of more digital curriculum, actively seeking partnerships with business and industry or collaborating with tech companies. Valued leaders engaged in the following practices. They were supported teachers. They were an integral member of community beyond role as principal or superintendent. They provided instructional coaches or technology specialists to work with teachers. They did not have the mindset that all veteran teachers were against change and bringing technology into schools. They are open and transparent about new initiatives. They have no hidden agendas. They are advocates for teachers and schools to get resources. They support planning, and they led by example using passion and focus. Technology planning and support is very necessary for the infrastructure of technology and the use of it in classrooms. First, they needed to put the technology that they were planning to use for the students in the hands of the teachers to make sure they knew what they were doing. Leaders involved the students' families in plans for technology initiatives and communicating clearly what is meant for students and families. This related to the concerns of cyberbullying and the safety of the technology in students' possessions coming to and from school. Also, the fact that access to internet is available at school but might not be guaranteed at home. A use of a learning management system or an LMS and getting all users trained to use it all users trained to use it made different in terms of changing instructional practices of teachers. This includes online testing and gradebook program linked to testing features. It can have a differentiated instruction and help teachers monitor students' progress, and can also provide a database for storing and sharing lessons plans that could be readily communicated with students and parents. For professional development, it was a characteristic of strong leaders to know that professional development was necessary and they needed to find funds when needed. Some in-house professional developments were kind of the norm because they cost nothing, and it's also almost the culture of the school is working together. Having this in-house professional development strategy, it encouraged teachers to share what they learned with peers and model ways to integrate technology in staff meetings and through personal use of technology. Could form user groups, will set aside regular successful uses of technologies. An example, creating or having one day a week that is dedicated to where all the teachers can get together and share their knowledge on technology and lessons. The opportunities differentiated were put into categories for the novice, intermediate, and advanced users of specific programs or pieces of hardware when needed extra training. They could also have early release days devoted to technology professional development. There are also summer technology institutes, boot camps, workshops, conferences, university courses, and district-sponsored workshops that teachers can take to become more educated in these types of technology. Summer sessions are valued because teachers had time to plan how they could apply what they were learning in their classroom throughout the summer. In the curriculum and instructional practices, subjects such as English, world languages, arts, math, science, geography, history, government and civics, and other courses including business, technology, health, special education, and gifted education. Um, this observed examples of 21st century information media and ICT, which is information communications and technology skills. They also observed range of teacher-directed and student-centered instructional practices influenced by the teacher's knowledge of the content, one's preferred pedagogy, and one's knowledge about ways that technology might be used to teach content, one's knowledge, skill, and confidence with the technology itself, personal beliefs about the role and purpose of having technology in the classroom, self-efficacy beliefs, and the school's culture around technology. Continued, the 21st century skills that they were focusing on in the classrooms were critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration, also in correlation with oral and written communication, and also the fact that they're building on prior knowledge to gain new knowledge. Ways that students were using technology to change the curriculum are use of online research and using tool software for recording notes, writing papers, or creating presentations. There are also drill and practice programs, ways to assess the students, credit recovery, and remediation. There are also online environments such as websites and videos to disseminate information, facilitate communication, and enhance instruction. They can also project problem or challenge-based learning for an interdisciplinary curriculum. Also, there are apps that you can use called Skype, Google Docs, email, Rosetta Stone, all for uses of communication and technology. The school culture also has a lot to do with technology working in the curriculum and bringing it into the school. The culture, climate, and leadership are all central to improving schools. The importance of knowing every student, building relationships with students, improving student-teacher mentoring relationships, creating a supportive environment for teachers, and building successful leadership teams all play into this. The school needs to have expectations of everyone to use technology, even if it is in a trial and error method, just supporting the use of it. And to celebrate successes, even the small ones, regularly and publicly. Teachers did not need to use technology in every lesson, but should do so when and where it made sense. Funding is one of the other factors that was put into play because the leaders need to be entrepreneurial when it comes to thinking outside of the box to find ways to have these funds sustained for technology initiatives. They should always include the district's chief financial officer in all planning for school improvement when using technology. Also having a creative policy changes may free up some monies typically used for textbooks. And also other ways that you can find funding is use of building funds to pay for infrastructure and technology, or use of summer funds to purchase technology. Other ways to raise money, they can have fundraisers or have redirected rental income for their buildings into a technology fund, or they can partner with local businesses to get a percentage of their sales for the school's technology fund. Because without sustaining funding for the technology, initiatives may stall to launch them, which would be a shame. And then lastly was the importance of partnerships with nearby businesses, industries, and/or universities and colleges, because this can provide potential financial backing in forms of donations or grants. It also provides expertise in form of membership on planning committees and advisory boards. Also, it garnered additional human and technical resources. If they were ever to have problems, they would have an established relationship. Also partnering with the parents, families, and other community members necessary to sustain technology initiatives, because parent-teacher groups can raise and designate funds for purchasing technology in schools, or they could have volunteers who might be able to help staff computer labs during schools, or run after-school clubs, or volunteer to fix computers on the weekends, etc. Limitations and some of the projected future research they had based off of the results of theirs. The limitations were the fact that the sample size was only of 8 schools, and there wasn't enough time to do an ethnographic research to capture in depth how and in what ways culture developed in these places before the research was taking place. Each school had a history between few months and 15 years of experiences with one-on-one technology initiatives, and they did not capture history of how and when schools with most experience with technology address the 7 factors. For future research, they wanted to study other exemplary schools inside and outside of the United States to see if their findings are replicated or not, to determine what else might distinguish successful technology leadership from other factors that are implicated in successful leadership for school improvement. Summary and recommendations are: the system approach and distributed leadership allowed these exemplary leaders to leverage technology to organize, implement, and promote student engagement and achievement, increase school success, and reinvigorate their teachers. The leaders managed to balance their personal leadership with their desire to build on and include the skills and talents of others, intentionally on priceless of distributed leadership, and also to encourage and lead the implementation of new and exciting uses of 21st century technology tools. The recommendations that they proposed are to personally use and publicly model ways to use technology, to understand technology integration is not an all or nothing proposition, to be entrepreneurial in finding ways and to find and sustain technology initiatives, to be open to policy change, to find, fund, and support a robust LMS, be willing to change if something is not working, and to commit to ongoing professional development related technology. In the final comments, other factors observed in the school's success was the purposeful development of a collaborative school culture, the changes in curriculum and teaching to focus on 21st century knowledge and skills, and the use of assessment data for differentiation, and also to continuously address financial considerations, the technology infrastructure and support, and collaboration with the surrounding community.